Hey, what's up, guys? You got your boy Gypsy back here once again with some more Draft League content for you all. Today I'm bringing you my finals match in the BCF, the Draft League, the BCF, run by my buddy Anthony. Today we are going up against the man himself. Yeah, so you know it's going to be a good match. If you guys haven't checked out my last match versus Anthony, I definitely recommend it. You know, he's a great opponent, and yeah, he's really knowledgeable in the format. And he's just a really good mate of mine. So yeah, definitely go out. I'll link his channel in the bottom. Definitely go and check him out. He's hilarious, as well as being a really competent player. So today, you know, I'll just give it just a quick disclaimer before we head into the match. Prior to the match, Anthony and I, we were having a laugh. We were just talking about how we agreed that we'd both bring heat. Usually, Anthony and I both take finals pretty seriously. We're pretty serious about draft leagues. But today, because it was we were up against each other, and it had been a funny season. We'd have to cut it short due to a lack of participation on some people's parts. So we had premature playoffs, and it was just a bit all over the place. But we just thought we'd end it off with a bit of a laugh. And both of our teams were kind of a bit unorthodox. So anyway, jumping into it. The short story is we both decided to pack. We both decided to pack heat. That's basically it. And as you'll see in the match, the team that Anthony's brought, I'll go into detail on his sets, but I'll give you a quick rundown of what I've brought today. So first up, we've got a speedy, pretty fast Zapdos with a lot of bulk, almost max HP. Got some defense investment in there. We're packing T-Wave. The T-Wave, the Yellow Magic, and the reason for that is to catch something like a slower Kyurem, because I do outspeed like the mid-speed Kyurems. So if he's not max speed, I will outspeed, and I will be able to get a T-Wave off. It also allows me to get a T-Wave off on Gera. I am faster than Mega Gyarados, which is Anthony's Mega. And T-Wave overall allows the rest of my mons to function a lot more effectively versus his team, which I'll go through as we move on. And then I'm packing, Toxic for Donphan, and I'm packing Roost, and my last move is Thunderbolt, which is to hit Gyarados. Next up, we have my Greninja, who is a bit of a mixed attacker. I got the low kick. I got low kick for Kyurem, low kick for Registeel, and I've got the low kick for a Mega Gira who wants to, try and set up on, Greninja's face. I'm carrying the Focus Sash because, just in case I wanted to get, like, say he let off with like a banded Crobat. I knew this man was going to bring heat, so I didn't really know what to expect. I felt like Focus Sash was a nice sort of safety net versus this guy. So I'm packing the Ice Beam. I'm packing the Dark Pulse, low kick. I'm carrying water coverage for Donphan, as well as I think carrying U-turn, I believe. So next up we've got Altaria, and I have a Mega Altaria on my team, and as you can see versus Anthony, he has two incredible stops to Altaria, which actually check both his offensive sets, barring something like Draco Meteor, Fire Blast coverage, but return is a lot better versus his team. Fairy Stab is a lot better for the rest of his members, but Crobat and Registeel wall Altaria really effectively. So that really rendered my Mega pretty useless in this match in any sort of offensive sense. So I did bring a defensive Altaria with Ice Beam to hit the Crobat. It can 2 KO after rocks, and if he's paralyzed, which he won't be paralyzed by Zapdos, but I'm carrying the Body Slam on Altaria, which will allow me to maybe para the Crobat on the switch in, and then I can proceed to Ice Beam it, Ice Beam to take it out if it is around 50%. Alright, so next up we've got Meloetta, and my Meloetta is pretty much the star of the show. Now Meloetta is predominantly it's got max HP. It's running enough speed that in its pirouette form, which is its fighting form, it can outspeed everything bar Crobat. It can outspeed all of his team. So but I knew he wouldn't be running max speed Crobat because it is such a fantastic check to my Mega Ult. So he was likely going to run max HP and some defensive investment. So I knew Melowood is pretty safe there. Once it is in Pyro form, it can outspeed his team, barring any fast scarfers like Kyurem. But that's why we got T-Wave. So next up, just more to do with it. Sorry, more with the Altar, the Meloetta. So we have got the Zen Headbutt, to hit the Crobat, and also to hit Ember. We've got the Low Kick, which does more damage than close combat. Oh, it does the same damage. I don't get the stat drops, so that's nice. And then I also have the Relic Song, obviously to evolve into my Pirouette form. Next up we have Scarf Nidoking. Now Scarf Nidoking puts in a lot of work versus his team. I have the Head Smash for the Crobat. I've got the Head Smash for a Gyro who wants to stay pre-megged and set up on me. Thinking, once he figures that out, that I'm offensive. Obviously he's not going to if he thinks I'm specially, because T-Bolt will take him out. But if, he learns that I'm a physical Nidoking, by calcs, Anthony will calc, Head Smash is going to take him out if I am not intimidated. Next up, we have my Gliscor, who is my second sweeper, my second win condition, apart from Meloetta. Now, Gliscor, I am running Double Dance Gliscor with Stealth Rocks and Facade. Now, this sounds ridiculous because I am going up against a Registeel. However, Gliscor can roost up and SD up on Registeel all day, every single day of the week. No matter his set. Unless he has something like Curse Ice Punch, his max attack Curse Ice Punch, and he boosts up alongside me, then we're going to have a problem. But even if he's like max attack Registeel, which, I didn't really think he'd bring, but if he is max attack Registeel, that's okay. I can live a hit and I can roost up, and through roosting I can lose my flying type, my typing, and remain ground, thereby reducing the damage of Ice Punch, allowing me to effectively boost up on Registeel, if it comes down to that. But, as you'll see, things don't necessarily work out the way as intended. So anyway, we'll just jump into the match really quick. You can see Anthony's brought a really good team versus me. Kyurem destroys my team. I have very little switch in. My switch into an Ice Beam is Meloetta, and that is pretty, reasonably effective. I don't have lefties because I'm an offensive set, but I do have max HP, so I can tank a few Ice Beams. But as you can see, Registeel and Crobat completely shut down my Mega. Anthony's got a history of kind of drafting my Megas, which is pretty clever on his part, as you'll see in the CPC match. But that's just part of the format. That's just how things are in the format, and it's a pretty clever decision on his part. So looking at his team before the match, I see Ember is a relatively big threat depending on his set. If he's Scarf, then he's easily dealt with by Mega Altaria. Something like Band with Heavy Slam, then we could have more of an issue. But Zapdos is a nice scout check for the Heavy Slam, as it takes nothing, and I can also get a static power on it possibly. So I can sort of pivot between those two if I want to just scout for the Heavy Slam. But Embor's a menace. It can do a lot of damage with like a Choice Banded Reckless Flare Bits. So I do have to watch out for that. Anyway, so let's jump into the match. So first turn, just before we jump into it, I figured Kyurem has the best matchup versus my whole team, so he's going to lead with it, obviously. So I lead out with my Greninja, knowing I can low kick it, as he leads out with Daddy Lizard, his Kyurem. So right here, I figured, he'd most likely switch out because, physical Greninja does a lot of work versus his team, but this man actually stays in. So I go for low kick. I do about 53%, and he actually subs on me, which is okay because, now I can get another hit off break his sub, but he can also break my sash, which is not very good. So I get low kick off there as he shows off the Earth Power, revealing he doesn't have the Volt, the Electric Stab, the Fusion Bolt. Or the Bolt Strike, whatever it is. So, that reveals he's more of a special set to me. Now, right here, it was a very, very, very low chance that I was going to kill with Dark Pulse, so I didn't want to risk it. Now, I spent quite a while thinking about it, and Anthony knows the way I like to play. He knows that I know that he needs to keep his Kyurem around, right? So like, the play would make sense for me to predict the Crobat and fire off an Ice Beam, for example. He knows that I'm aware of that. So this is always the kind of dilemma you face when you're playing someone who is good at the game and who understands the way who understands what the good play is. So right here, he knows that I know, but you know, I'm kind of caught up because, like, you know, he does need his Kyurem. So I predict him to predict me to predict him to stay in, predicting me to switch. I think he's going to bring in his Crobat, and sorry about that, that was a ramble. But anyway, long story short, I go for the low kick as he does switch out to his Crobat. So right there, that is not very good for me. I go for the low kick, and yeah, you know, I'm not going to sack off my Greninja because it is pretty important. As his Crobat reveals lefties, so he's more likely a defensive set, as I thought, because of my Altaria. So right here, I switch out to my Zapdos. Pretty obvious play on my part, to be honest, but he takes this opportunity to switch back out to his Kyurem. So that was a good double on his behalf. And right here, you know, this is a good opportunity for his Kyurem to just roost up. So I go for the T-Wave, and in hindsight, Toxic would have been a better play because he'd shown off the lefties. So you know, he did have lefties for longevity. If he was like a Life Orb set, Thunder Wave would have been hands down the best play, but T-Wave, as you'll see, would have served me a bit better during this match, arguably. But anyway, at this point, he just gets the roost off. As you know, I'm not going to stay in with my Zapdos. I can't do a thing to this monster, so I just go out into my Meloetta here, knowing that I can take an Ice Beam if need be. As he gets parried, which is pretty nice for me. So I just take this opportunity to get some damage off with Zen. I don't want to switch my Pirouette form because I will take more from the Ice Beam if I do that. So I just go for the Zen here. So he switches out to his Donphan, and you know, I figured he was going to knock off here. It was the play to make. You know, if anything, I was going to switch out to my Zapdos, who would obviously resist the EQ, and you know, my play was defensive Altaria every day of the week. So I switch out. It does nothing to my Altaria. It does a bit of damage actually, revealing he is like an offensive set because I am a defensive Altaria. So that is interesting. That does tell me a lot about his team. I go for the Ice Beam here, thinking, you know, he's probably going to go to his Crobat because, you know, it is, in my opinion, a better check in some ways, because he can Sludge Bomb me. If I'm DD, he can take one Dragon Claw. And if I'm special, and I predicted his Registeel with a Fire Blast, you know, and he actually reveals to be offensive Registeel, that would have done huge damage. So I did predict him to be to switch in the Crobat there, but you know, it didn't work out for me right there. So now I go into my Gliscor. I go into my Gliscor here on the Reggie as he goes for the rocks. And this is cool for me because it means I can go for my rocks. Like I said, any variant of Registeel, I can live a hit. I can live any hit and proceed to roost up and set up on. As he goes for the Ice Punch and he gets a crit and it does 92%. So that would have done about 60% with a 4 times weakness to Ice Punch. So if I had roosted up, it would have only been doing 30%. Meaning, along with my toxic damage, my toxic orb health regain, I could have effectively set up on this Registeel right here. So that was really unfortunate for me. And I'm at the amount of health now where Gliscor is essentially useless because you know, it's going to have a very hard time versus the rest of his healing up versus anything due to the crit. But you know, that's part of the game. That happens. So I switch out to my Zapdos here. So he makes a nice switch out to his Kyurem and just takes this opportunity to get a sub up, as he has a pretty free sub on my Zapdos, as I can't really touch him. So I just take this point. I'm not going to take an Ice Beam with my Zapdos. It's really important. So I go into my Gliscor just to sack it off in case he did want to go for the Ice Beam there. Hey guys, sorry about that. So anyway, he goes for the sub here as I go to my Gliscor to sack it off to a potential Ice Beam. As I see the sub, and you know, I've realized at this point Gliscor doesn't have much of a chance, unfortunately, because although it completely walls his Crobat, it can roost up on Donphan, it can roost up on everything basically except this guy and the Gyarados. You know, he's too weakened at this point, so I do actually have to sack my my Gliscor off at this point. So I just go for the Facade I am max attack adamant, by the way, so that's why I took so much from that Ice Punch. But you know, even so, you know, he would have had a good chance, but you know, that's just how it goes sometimes. So anyway, he's roosting up, and I just want to get this Kyurem low. You know, if I can get it low, I can put it in range to die from something like a low kick or a body slam from my Altaria, or even a hit from my Nidoking. So he just kills me off with the Ice Beam there. As I go for the low kick here, and it doesn't take him out. I needed to be in pirouette form to take him out with low kick, but he gets parried there, which is pretty nice for me. Now, I knew he'd switch out this turn, so I just go for the Zen here. I figured he'd likely go into Crobat, as it would resist my low kick, and he could then scare me out with something like a Brave Bird or a U-turn. So I'll go for the Zen, but he makes a good play. He goes into his Donphan. As he goes to the spin here, which is pretty good for him. He's got rid of my Stealth Rocker, so that means no more hazards for him on his side of the field, which is quite nice. I go for the Body Slam here, and I get the power on Registeel. So, you know, Ult's doing what it was meant to do. It was meant to take hits from the Donphan and, you know, get powers on things with the Body Slam. As I bring in my Zapdos here to effectively take hits from this Reggie, because even though he is max attack adamant, I can just roost up on the Zapdos all day. Now here, you know, as he's shown Kyurem to be such a safe switch into Zapdos, you know, I double into my Greninja because I don't want to give the Kyurem a chance to get a roost off. So I make the play there, and it works out for me as he just goes out into his Crobat yet again. And Ice Beam would have killed from that range. So, you know, that was a pretty risky play on his behalf, but it played off. And at this point, I just decide to stay in and get damage on the Crobat because, you know, I didn't really have a switch in. If he was Zapdos is at a point where it would die from 2 Sludge Bombs, so Zapdos was important. So I couldn't let him die. And at this point, if I do get a para right here, a second para, I can actually take the Kyurem out and put in so much work with the rest of my team. So. But you know, relying on paras is not really what you want to do in this sort of situation. And you know, he does get the roost off, which is cool. I roost here, as he just goes for the sub, and this roost on my Zapdos allows me to check, you know, his Emboar and his Crobat and his Mega Gyarados a lot more effectively. So that was pretty important to get off. But you know, this Kyurem is still a massive threat in front of my face, and it's just getting a nice free time versus my Zapdos. So I switch in my Altaria here. As you know, I figured he'd roost up because Zapdos is a pretty nice free roost, and he has no reason to go for the Ice Beam straight up because he can survive. His sub can survive one T-Bolt. So now I just bring in my ult to break the sub, and I get about 69% off with the Body Slam right there, as he takes me out with the Ice Beam, which is obvious. You know, Kyurem is a monster, no matter how bulky Altaria is. At this point, my main goal was to whittle down his team enough to the point where Meloetta could sweep, and I knew he'd most likely go out into either Donphan or Crobat at this point, and this was where my plan was kind of coming into motion. So I go for the Relic Song here. It does a decent amount, does 34% to Crobat, which puts him in range to die from Zen, and I do add speed so I can take the Crobat out here. So this is nice, you know, this is nice for my Meloetta. As he goes into his Emboar. Now, I did have a pretty high chance to flinch here with the Zen. Anthony says flinch in the chat. That does 62%, but you know, I don't get it, which is fine. As he goes to the Flare Blitz, and I do survive because I am in my Pirouette form, which has a higher defensive stat than its standard form, as I can just take him out with a low kick there. Now, this was a pretty pivotal point in the match. It's debatable, but you know, from where I'm standing, in my opinion, this was a very costly part of the match for me. So basically, I needed damage off on the Donphan to take him out with Nidoking. If I just got some damage off with my Meloetta on the Donphan here, I could have taken him out with Nidoking's attack following up. From there, it would have been if he had assumed I was Scarf, which you know, I could have been a berry because I would have gone for something like Earthquake, which is my strongest stack to hit him with. It wouldn't have shown Life Orb, revealing that I wasn't a Life Orb set. You know, he may have come to the assumption that I was Scarf because I said Anthony's a really good player, and he knows that a Scarf Nidoking does outspeed a +1 Mega Gyarados. So, you know, he could have come to that assumption, or he could have also assumed that I was a Berry. Either way, he may have, you know, it's debatable what he would have gone out into. So, say I had got the damage off with Meloetta, and then taken out the Donphan with Nidoking, he would have gone out into his Gyarados. And from there, it would have been a bit of a 50-50 whether I switched out to my Zapdos and he doubled to his Kyurem on my predicted Zapdos switch in, or whether he stayed in with Gyarados, sorry, and tried to take out my Zapdos, who can take a +1 Waterfall, Crunch, and Ice Beam at the range that it's at. From there, Zapdos would have been able to beat down the Gyarados. It would have 1v1'd the Registeel, but it would not have beaten the Kyurem. I would have been relying on my Scarf Nidoking to take out the Kyurem, which it would have done with Head Smash or Superpower, yeah, I think I was packing Superpower as well, but either way, Head Smash would have taken him out at the range he was at. But of course, you know, that's assuming that Anthony didn't double to Kyurem on my switch out to Zapdos. So, you know, it's a bit up in the air, but basically what happens is I miss the Zen. The Zen would have guaranteed me the damage, and it also would have given me a chance to flinch, which would have meant that Nidoking 100% took out the Donphan. But you know, that's Pokemon. Sometimes these things happen. As you can see, I get the crit there, but it doesn't take him out. He leaves it with a Slither, and he takes my Nidoking out with an Earthquake. So at this point, my only attack to hit is Donphan with his Toxic, and he just takes this opportunity to knock me off, getting off damage, and yeah. So at this point, with my Zapdos in, I still have a chance. Despite how it looks, I still have a chance. If I do get a para on the Kyurem, if I get 2 paras, I can take him out with T-Bolts. So first up, I go for a T-Bolt. I get 1 para. And now I'm thinking, alright, you know, Zapdos still has a shot here. If I can get 1 more para, I can 1v1 both his other Mons, because I can T-Wave the Gyarados if it wants to come in. I actually outspeed and I can Thunderbolt it, but Thunderbolt will not kill Mega Gyarados. But I can T-Bolt it and then, Thunderwave it and then proceed to T-Bolt it. But you know, I'm relying on him getting parried again, and as you can see, I go for the T-Bolt and he breaks through para and roosts up. So that is the game versus my man Anthony. That is a nice win to him, nice 3-0 win. There was a lot of unfortunate hacks on both our wins. It was definitely not all against me. He got a lot of paras on his side. That was the aim with body slamming Mega Ult and T-Wave T-Wave Zapdos. It was more for speed control, to be honest. I wasn't trying to get paras. I was trying to get speed control to guarantee my Gliscor, when it set up a +2 or a +4, it wouldn't even need to agility, even though I was running it. If I got enough paras, if I got enough Pokemon on his side paralyzed, I could just rely on my Sword Dances to sweep. But the paralysis on his side definitely did come through for me a bit. But yeah, we both had a lot of hacks on each other's side, so that was pretty unfortunate that such a pivotal match got affected so much by hacks for both of us. But you know, at the end of the day, we were bringing heat and we had a fun match. It was a really fun match regardless. And you know, Anthony played really well. He brought a really strong team, and there was not a lot that Altero could do, unfortunately. But you know, that's just how it goes sometimes. So you know, props to my man Anthony. I'll leave his channel in the link below, and I definitely recommend you guys go and check him out. As I said earlier, if you haven't checked him out yet, you know, he's a really good player. He's a funny guy, and he really knows what he's doing in the format. So yeah, guys, do yourselves a favor and go and check him out. And thanks for watching, guys. Hope you all enjoyed.